to make sure that your business is doing enough to take care of your bills and that you're doing the business so that it can grow. It's doing two jobs at once. And I think a lot of people don't know that as they go in, don't pay attention to that, and don't understand why the weight is so heavy and why it feels so hard.
This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy.
If you need money from your business, and this is one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, don't say, but if you need money from your business, if you have to pull money out of your business in the first 12 to 24 months, you are actually cannibalizing the exponential growth factor and growth capability of your business for two reasons. One, just from a velocity of money standpoint, there's less money to compound, there's less money to do things. And so it stagnates growth. But two, and I think even more importantly, the psychic energy that you have to deal with to make sure that your business is doing enough to take care of your bills and that you're doing the business so that it can grow. It's doing two jobs at once. And I think a lot of people don't know that as they go in, don't pay attention to that, and don't understand why the weight is so heavy and why it feels so hard.
Man, that right there kind of reverses some of my thinking on how you have to make the business do the thing you want it to do. This is what I tell entrepreneurs when I am coaching them and when I'm, teaching them and facilitating for them. I'll say, I want to see a salary up there in your spreadsheet that's worthy of your time. And
And
it's infinitely difficult for them to see that, right? And I remember one
yep,
of our buddies, Keith Morgan, said this once. He said, you can't expect your business to give you an income. And I said, absolutely, you can expect it to give you income, or at least let the business tell you how it can, or if it can't. So but we
right.
got to put something, I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that? I don't know if I should reverse the
So
ideal or just adjust it.
I
Do
think
we
that
put a
this
big
is
salary on the spreadsheet? Just
no. And here's the thing that I will point out, because remember we used to do this when I was coaching with the organization that you coach with as well. And one of the things that I think I got this epiphany really, and this is my story. Like I tell y'all, like my business didn't grow as fast and hasn't grown as fast because I quit a job, started my business, and from day one, my business had to do two things. It had to feed my family and
and
um,
the business was like,
try to
I
pay
don't know
people
how
and
I'm
do
gonna
all the
do it.
rest of it. Exactly. Now, here's the epiphany that I had. And the reality is, if you remember Robert Kiyosaki in Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks about the different quadrants. And you got the E, the S, the B, and the I, right? E is the
Mhm.
employed person. They got a W-2. They work for somebody. You got the S, which is small business owners, specialists, professionals. Then you got the B, which is a big business owner, systems, et cetera. And then the I is an investor. The thing that I realized, because I was always trying to, I thought, and from Robert Kiyosaki, one of the things that he talked about was the difference between the B and the I, and the B and the S was systems and whether or not you have people that can work for you and all the rest of this type of stuff.
Mhm.
I would go even one further. And this is the thing that I think that isn't in his book as much and isn't in like I don't think that people it's there, but I feel like it's like a subtext. It's not prominent. And I think a lot of people overlook it. I've read the book, multiple times and have overlooked it. The difference between a small business owner and a big business owner, and Robert Kiyosaki does say this, a small business owner owns a job, a big business owner owns a business. I think the key distinction between that is the small business owner not only owns a job from the perspective of they have to keep working in order for the income to keep coming in, but more importantly, they need the income from the business in order to live the lifestyle that they're living.
Mhm.
And that's the rub. I think that when you look at the big business owner, here's the thing. The big business owner owns a system, but the big business owner also does not need the income of that business in order for that business owner to continue taking care of their base needs, to pay their mortgage, pay all the rest of that type of stuff. They're good. which allows them, right, to and this is again in the first 12 to 24 months. I'm not saying forever because part of the reason why you get to be owning yachts and doing all the rest of that stuff is because your business is throwing off so much cash that it's taking care of itself and your profit is able to buy all of those amazing things. But the distinction is in that first 12 to 24 months, while you're building the system, if you're doing all of the jobs,
Mm,
to your point on the spreadsheet, you shouldn't be putting in a salary for yourself. You should be putting in a salary for all of the jobs because you
that's
should be
good.
hiring people to do those jobs.
Eventually.
Because until
Yeah.
you have other people doing those jobs, you've just got a job. You don't have a business.
Hmm. That's
And
some good old
until
fashioned
other
Michael
people
Gerber
are
stuff.
doing exactly, until other people are doing everything that's necessary to run the business day to day, there's no money for you to have a salary because you've got to pay your workers.
Mm,
And until you can pay your workers and then there be profit after you're paying your workers, you don't have a business system. You've got a job that may be a very high paying job, but it's still a job, right?
mm,
Doctors are small business owners that own a job. They don't show up, they don't make money. They don't see patients, they don't make money. Lawyers are small business owners that own a job. Plumbers are small business owners that own a job. If they don't go turn that wrench and shut that water off or put the piping in, electricians, same thing. It doesn't turn into a business until you can say, I've got 7 people that can work on this job, and I've got somebody that can run the crew, and I've got somebody that can do the sales, and I've got somebody that can do the admin. I've got people that can do all of the things in the business so that I don't have to show up and
hmm.
they all get paid very good salaries. And then the business is still throwing off profit. That's when I own a business system instead of a job.
So to me, that seems, I mean, as we think about how to break that down so that it is making sense instead of putting in, and now I wish I could have the spreadsheet right there in front of you. And I used to do it the other way. I used to front load the salary and then say it
Mm-hmm.
like this. I used to say, okay, from the salary, you're going to pay for things, correct? And people say, well, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pay for my da da da. Oh, okay. So you need that. Now you could do it the other way by saying, by literally just putting all that stuff on your spreadsheet. I said, but now you got a heaviness. Your
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet is just full. You got everything, is
Mm-hmm.
paying for everything. Now that is a way, but it's going to, when it shows you what you just need to break even, and we use kind of, in certain cases, we use a simple spreadsheet,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We use just a simple one saying, okay,
Yeah.
take
Just simple break even.
one little thing you're selling, and then let's see what that thing could spool off for you. And it gives you a number. Okay, you got to sell this many in a month, right? Now, the information part to me is, instead of the math part, is that that thing just told you what you must do every day. Period. There,
Mm-hmm.
there, there ain't no. It just says you want 10,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
sell this many. Period.
Exactly.
Now
Right.
that information then should come into you where you're going. But I'm selling these things out of my trunk. I mean, it says, well, you're gonna be riding around all a while, right? And it's
Exactly.
not a renewal. So you're gonna be right. Hey, you got this thing in the trunk, or it informs you, Rob, that
Mm-hmm.
you must sell a different way. Bam.
Yeah.
That's when you
Yeah.
get into
That's,
business models.
and I don't disagree with you. I think the thing that right because same worksheet, same thing. I used to do the exact same thing. Here's how much salary do you want to make was the question that we would always ask. Problem with that question is this. It's not the question in and of itself. The question is a great question, right? Except for how people answer the question. And when I was coaching entrepreneurs, inevitably, and this is the thing that even me answering the question, this is what I realized. The way you answer that question is, what do I want that salary to do for me?
Mm,
And invariably, that salary is paying bills when we're asking that
correct.
question. And
Correct.
if that salary is paying bills, guess what I have? A
Job.
job. And that's the whole difference. When you look at, and you know this being an investor yourself, right? When we invest in businesses, what do we look at? We don't look at salary. We don't look at how much do I want this to pay me, quote unquote. We look at return on investment,
ROI. Right.
right?
I literally,
And
for a client, I says, hey, I need to talk to you about how I'm helping you ROI.
that's
That's
it.
it. That's all. That's all I wanted to know. I says
Exactly.
the things I've laid out, how are they ROI? And I even signed it in my
Exactly.
email, Randy ROI Outerbridge, right? No, I said
Exactly.
the ROI guy. So
The ROI guy. Exactly. Now, the reason why that's so important is because as long as they're answering the question about their salary based on what they're trying to pay with their salary, they're trying to have their business pay for their lifestyle.
yeah,
And here's the problem with that: they're not looking at the inputs that go into having their business pay for their lifestyle. It does tell you you need to sell this many, you need to do this much, you need to have
mhm,
this much, which translates into I need to spend this many hours doing these things. And now I'm getting paid. And when you do the math on what it takes for your business to do that many sales and how many hours you have to put in to do that much, what winds up happening is if you actually look at what you're making per hour, the average entrepreneur makes roughly around $26 an hour.
okay.
And that's before you talk about taxes and all the rest of that. When you actually talk about taxes and everything else, the average entrepreneur makes around $13 to $14 an hour, working over 80 hours a week.
So that makes me curious about something. So, all right, as we think about, we've got the salary conundrum, put it in, don't put it in, or and in certain spreadsheets it'll say like other. Should we then look at how we have, if we were to systematize it, and we've got that chart, people, what do we call that thing? Where you got the person at the top, and then you got the org chart,
Yeah,
right?
the org chart. Yep.
So
Organizational
if
chart.
we
Yep.
should we org chart the business? Should we say, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but org chart
Mhm.
it and says, okay, there's marketer, there is sales,
Mhm.
there's, and
Mhm.
put those on the spreadsheet, and then put a what would I pay?
Yes, that's exactly how I
What would I
started doing
pay?
it
And then see if the business could support them. Is that
with my coaching clients. What I started doing is exactly that. We would say first, what are the costs of the business in and of itself? So,
yeah.
what does it cost for your website and you're this and you're that, all the fixed costs, all the variable costs that are personnel independent. And we would then do our break even of how much do you have to sell in order to cover these costs to break
hmm
even.
hmm
Then the next question says, what's the work that has to get done to sell that much? We need a
hmm
social media person. We need an administrative assistant. We needed this. We needed that. We need, because
hmm
this is all the work that has to happen.
hmm
And how many hours do we anticipate that we're going to have to? And we could do it from our perspective. I'm going to have to spend 4 hours a day doing outreach. Okay. So 4 hours a day, that's 20 hours a week. And each of the different roles that we're doing currently in the business to do those types of sales, or if we have to up it to do more sales. And then once we've broken down all the roles, all the hats that the current business owner is wearing, that's when we say, okay, how much would it cost for you to get that hat off your head? How much would it cost for you to pay somebody else to do that job? And we get every job off of their plate except for the CEO job. And once we look at how much the business has to make in order for you to pay everybody other than the CEO, then we can start talking about what would you like to make to be the CEO of your business?
That's good. And I like the idea too. And I know one of our friends, Kara Allen, talks about this too. She says, I want you to put a number on each one of those people. Now, that's the going there, right? And I didn't used to do this because I says, well, your salary, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm kind of rethinking some of this. I wanted to make it simple so that, you just don't crush their dreams right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
But
always did it in two parts. I never did it all at the same time.
But with that idea, here's what this will cost. Now, I'm going to introduce something as a possibility going forward, given the fact that we're in the AI era.
Mhm.
So now we've got these people that have these numbers to their section on the org chart.
Yep.
Then we're asking the business, okay, go feed them. Can we break it down to
Mhm.
like that? Go feed those folks. And what I
Exactly.
like about this approach still, because guess what? If you're doing all this job, well, you're still getting fed, just saying. So
Exactly.
you get the money in a way
Well, yeah.
for doing the work in the business, until you can. Oh man, this is so powerful because
That's it.
once you decide, if the business says, I can pay them all, I can pay them all, this is what you or whomever has to now sell per month to make those things happen. Now, if you happen to be those people, well,
Then
you
you
get a
make
little
that money.
check.
Right.
Now, let's introduce the idea of putting AI within those places. Now,
Yeah.
this is going to totally eviscerate the idea that you have to have um, a person laden company, right?
Mhm.
Even people that are doing virtual assistants and all that kind of stuff, they're going to be struggling in this AI era because I can to be 100 with you. I've been ex using some AI, man, that literally I can look and see five different positions that I no longer would need,
Mhm.
period. Right?
Yep.
Now, I might just need one person to run that. I want you to
Mhm.
run all of these, and or if it's you, you're that one person and you're making like Peter Levels does, right? He says he codes it up in a simple way. We've talked a little bit about this before in some of our other podcasts. He codes stuff up,
Mhm.
he puts it out there, right? He has his lane of distribution, which I think is X, and then and people go, I want that. And then he'll show because he builds in public. This is making
Mhm.
$1.1 million a month or
Mhm.
a year, and then this one's making such and such. So now he's got like four or five companies out there making all these, and he just builds continuously
Yeah.
and tries stuff, put it out there, and see if it gets a run rate.
Yeah. And I think that the key thing, and it might even be just how we are articulating it, because we're saying, I'm saying the same. I feel like I'm saying the same thing you're saying, which is the first thing that you have to realize is what are all of the roles that are necessary in order to make the money in the
Yes,
business,
yes,
in order to make the business pay for itself, in order to make the business break
yeah,
even.
yeah.
Now, whether you decide to do that role and take that pay as a right, or whether you decide to hire out that role, that is a determining factor of whether you own a business system or whether you own a job.
Mm, I'm
The
loving it.
point is the people or the jobs in the business need to get paid the same way. Now,
Hmm.
they and what most people don't do is they don't pay all the jobs. They don't pay any of the jobs. They just do a lot of work
Yeah.
and they do the basic break even of what do I need to pay my bills
Hmm.
and to pay the business's bills. And the problem with a lot of businesses, because right, we know this 50% of businesses make less than $50,000 a year. So what does that tell us? That tells us that most businesses do not pay the business's bills and the owner's bills. And
That's
that's what the issue is.
yeah, yeah. I think we should be living in our spreadsheets. I think we should be constantly, and this is something that I've been, floating to some of the people that I coach. I says, I want you to look at your cost and ask questions of them. I don't want you, and I used this analogy before, like no cost gets to come into your party without bringing profit and its other friend revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, cost is like, hey, but I'm cost. I'm a lone ranger. I do what I want, right? And I said,
Exactly.
you ain't getting into this party unless you can show me the associated friendship with profit and revenue
Profit
to
and
you
revenue.
as
Yes.
cost.
And I love that analogy. And the funny thing about it though is so because a lot of business owners have been taught that they know that, what do? We just don't we disguise cost as something else.
Yeah,
And what is cost disguised as? Cost is disguised as I'll do it myself.
that's right. Right. And now, and this is something that I've been wrapping within that narrative. You, your salary is a cost. It ain't coming
Right.
to the party.
But here's the thing. And so what people do is they just don't pay themselves a salary,
Right.
which
Right. Yeah.
gets them out
Yeah.
of the scrutiny of
Yeah. Yeah.
is this cost, which and here's the
Oh,
thing,
I'll do
they're
it.
actually paying the cost because your time is the most valuable asset that you have. And we're giving our time to these dreams and to these visions, and we're not addressing whether or not our time is bringing back with it profit and revenue.
And revenue.
One of my favorite things that you say, and it rings in my head when I do stuff now, is are you doing profit generating or revenue
Yeah.
generating
Yeah.
activities,
Yeah.
right?
Plain and simple, right? And I have to do this on myself. Okay, I'm gonna start frothing at the mouth, everybody, because this is that subject matter that I also suffer from badly.
Mm-hmm.
Full 100, being just,
And me too.
transparent.
Yep.
And I can tell you that what I'm talking to the entrepreneurs about a lot is this. All right, here's some cost, and then they don't see it. I says you have determined that your worth, if you will, what you can contribute to the business. You got a skill set, blah blah blah. $150 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
$150 an hour, and you getting ready to go cut the grass. Now we've talked a little bit. I says there's no way you should be cutting that darn grass. You're stealing from yourself. And then it gets like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, he's so harsh. You're stealing from yourself because you just
Mm-hmm.
stole time that should be better used this way. Okay.
Yep.
Having said it
Yep.
that way, every time you're doing a thing in your business, which I also suffer from because I'm hard headed sometimes, like any other entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
I got it. Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
pissed off at, my editor guy, and I'm like, I can do a thumbnail better than that. And it's not. It just isn't. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, like Gerber says, you're back in the business and you're the worst boss ever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's how we don't want to just agitate a problem and then not give you a potential solution to this. So here's the commercial. Rob, here's the commercial. How could we help people realize these things and introduce opportunity within their business?
Yeah. So
That's our commercial.
there's two things that I think that are extremely important in this space. Number one is helping people to really get clear on what success looks like. Because I think so often we get the shoulds. We should all over ourselves, and we know what we should be doing, what other people say should work, and we don't know what works best for us. And I think that you do this well with your clients, where you help them to see, right, like you said, what is the spreadsheet telling you? And then the next piece is looking at, is that congruent with, or is that in alignment with what you want? If it's not, then maybe we need to pivot. Maybe we need to be thinking about something else. And one of the things that you're really awesome at is helping people understand how they can monetize the different skill sets that they have
Yes.
in their lives. Right.
Yes.
You do a tremendous job of that. And you got, y'all check the notes, check the liner notes, or whatever, because I know Randy has links to, he's got plenty of digital doors, if you would, where you can,
Digital doorways to dollars. And that's what we're going to
there
help
you
you
go.
introduce into your business so that you can run it in a whole different way. Sometimes you're in this thing. We get it. You're in it, you can't see it. You're in the mayonnaise jar, you don't know what's inside, on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're offering to you is the opportunity to work with us. If you want to do it individually, that's great. Okay. But we're going to put something together for you. We're going to leave a link. We're going to put something together for you that allows you to see what some of the stuff we talk about. We're going to collect maybe some of our other um, podcasts and stuff like that. And we're going to put it in a manner, in a way that you can look and go, that's a great checklist. I should be doing this. So we'll give you that first and then give you the opportunity, if that is of value to you, to then work with us to come in and kind of bolt things together if you need it.
Yep, yep, yep. And I think that something that'll be helpful for a lot of people, and this is one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about in this as well, but kind of pivot and take going to a different topic, but same idea. For many of you all that get stuck with the kind of should feeling, it's because it's just like, Instagram talks about influencers and how they be sucking their stomachs in and doing all types of stuff and the poses and the filters and everything. That ain't how people really look. It's the same thing with businesses. So many times you hear these stories of, I built a $7 million business, or I built an $8 million business, or I built $1 million business in 6 months. What you don't hear when people talk about those stories, and what's really important to discuss when people talk about those stories, if you go back and you look at most of those stories, what you will see is that, again, their base needs. So like Alex Hormozy is one of my favorite kind of people online. He's written a couple books, $100 million offers, $100 million leads. He gives away a ton of training for free. Something that I was watching, and it helped me really understand his journey, because like he talks about working hard, he talks about a whole bunch of different things,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
he went through his whole journey. And one of the things that I had not paid attention to before, that clued me into this, and I've seen it with a number of different people. That right, if you talk about Robert Kiyosaki, you'll see this trend. If you talk about uh, Ty Lopez, you'll see this trend. If you talk about any of the people that are online talk gurus about making money,
Hmm.
you'll see
Hmm.
this. What you'll see is, like in Alex Hormozzi's case, he worked and he was a consultant. He worked for one of the big consulting firms. I think it
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
BCG or Bain or McKinsey, one of those. And he basically saved over 2 years of working with that consulting group. He saved $50,000. So he had $50,000 in savings. His total expenses for the month, he was living Spartan living. So it wasn't like he
Hmm.
was,
Hmm.
balling out or nothing, but his total expenses for the month at that time, he had gotten himself to the point where he was living off of basically about $1,300 a month.
Hmm.
And so when he had $50,000 and he was living off of $1,300 a month, let's round up and say $1,500 a month, right? It's $18,000 a year total expenses. That means that he had a runway of 2.5 to 3 years before he ever needed the business ventures that he was starting to make him any money before he would be good. Before he'd have to worry about how am I gonna pay my rent? How am I gonna pay my bills? How am I gonna do any of this? There's so many stories like that where they had savings or they had another job, right? I've got a mentor of mine that he was working another job, building up his book of business, and he was still working that job when he subcontracted me out to do some extra work for his business, where he basically got paid half of what I got paid. Um, for the I got one half of it, he got the other half of it,
Hmm.
and he did because it was his contract. And he still had another job. Oh, and by the way, he also had a pension from another job that he had. So
That part.
why is this important? And his wife worked. Why is this important? Because when you don't have to worry about how am I going to pay my bills, you can actually build your business the way that it's supposed to be built. When you have to worry about how am I going to pay my bills, one of the things that is going to happen, and I've seen it, I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs, I've seen it with plenty of people at my level as well. What winds up happening is you make now decisions that impact tomorrow decisions. And I will tell you just from my personal experience, I have had to, I have made plenty of money in the businesses that I've run, but in the spaces where I've had to think about how am I going to pay my bills, it's always shrunk my vision back to the here and now instead of me being able to do things consistently over time that 6 months from now, a year
Yeah.
from now,
Yeah.
18 months from now will bear fruit. And so
Man.
that's something I think is really important for entrepreneurs to
Yeah.
understand. Don't fall prey to the myth that you don't think you can run your business and work a job.
Yeah.
That's a fallacy.
I
It's a myth.
literally, this is so apropos to what I want to say next, and that is that I told someone, an entrepreneur, I says, if you're worried about eating, and they had told me, it says, I didn't go into my job, and I was like, oh, hey, time out, hey, time out, and they didn't go into their job because they says I really wanted to concentrate on my business, pre-revenue. So I says it's really difficult to concentrate on your job when your belly is empty. When you are trying to eat, it is really hard to concentrate on your business when you're
Mhm.
under the threat of getting your lights shut off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And I took
Exactly.
the approach that Alex did, right? Is I saved up a lot of money before I just said, okay, organizations, I'm out, right? Saved up, and it was about 2 years.
Hmm.
Right now, 5 years into this thing, then you go through that pile pretty quick,
Hmm.
especially if you are not resourceful,
Hmm.
right? There's resources, and and at the beginning of this
Resourcefulness.
conversation, Rob and I was talking. I says, "Man, I don't know if I'm getting worse or not," because you get a couple bucks and you stop being resourceful. Your resourcefulness level, you go, well, I can just go pull from over there, and you
Hmm.
have to be very aware of that. There's that war footing, if you will, moment. And then there's a time when you go, okay, I can come off of that kind of footing and get into a different mindset. Otherwise, like Rob said, your now decisions, you make now decisions that impact tomorrow decisions. Let's stop that. We're going to help you the best we can if you decide us being the people that can help you. Or if you got somebody that's already helping you, we can kind of look in on that and go, yeah, they're full of canal water. You don't need to pay that kind of stuff. And then with some of the AI apps that I have the pleasure of working with every single day, that might also offer another way to look at it. I literally, the other day, I was talking with a guy that's in the leadership space, similar to you, Rob, and I said in his title, I says put AI in there relative to leadership in the AI era, or
Hmm.
something to that effect. I says let's create a
Hmm.
new chapter, whatever it is, because if you have no organization to run, you're going to be a different kind of leader, and that might be a leader that's
Hmm.
at the house. Just saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to start talking to them about how to come together and be together within this space, because you're going to have a
Mhm.
whole bunch of worried employees, and I mean worried at a high level, and they're going to do things that could throw your whole business off. What if they strike because they says we've seen it, right? We've
Hmm.
seen it
The
in
writer's strike.
the writer strike, throw that could throw off your whole deal. Right now, we've
Hmm.
seen that happen before, and then it eviscerated the marketplace, because then people says, well, let's just do these reality TV things, and that'll get us away from needing them. Now, that
Hmm.
new strike or that new possibility could then make a person go, well, let's just get AI in here and we don't have to
Yep.
worry about not being able to find employees. You see where
That's
I'm
the
going
whole
with this?
thing. Yeah.
So, want to work with us? Great. If not, hey, keep it moving, keep it going, doing what you're doing. And then when you absolutely need us, we might not be available. Just saying. So, hey, Rob, what else with and we love doing this stuff, right? We come on every episode, and we like to hang out and talk about business situations, business problems, situations in our own lives, what we need
Hmm.
to do. So this for us is just, just fun. I don't care if I
Hmm.
get 5 views or 5 million. The point is I get a chance to come on, talk with my friend, and we get to work stuff out. And now we just want to share some of those things with you. So we're going to leave some information in the description field or somewhere so that you can get a hold of a collection of those things. Could be a collection of videos. Watch them all, right? Take notes. Use AI to take notes. Whatever you want to do. Just get this information and then start applying it to your thing. However you decide you want to do it, with help or by yourself. We'll leave that for you. And Rob, what else could we end with in sharing with our entrepreneurs out there?
I think the last thing that's kind of sticking in my mind is just when we were talking about kind of using AI and how that impacts things. I think something that a lot of people don't do is measure the impact. And I want to kind of admonish and really get you all to think about how do you measure better? So often we as entrepreneurs just do stuff and we are kind of energizer bunny. We got boom, 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 boom. And we got new shiny object syndrome and we got, the next thing, next big thing, and all these different things that pop up. The one thing I want you all to think about is how are you going to hold yourself accountable to not just doing stuff, right? Not just being busy, but to actually being productive. And one thing that you might want to start looking at is, for example, if you're doing social media posting, how are you tracking that you're doing it consistently? How are you tracking that it's actually valuable? And more importantly, how are you tracking that it's a revenue producing or a
Mhm.
profit producing activity? If you don't have that already, that's something you really need to think about. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can find online about how to track those things, what metrics you need to look at, stuff like that. But just know that you need to be tracking those things. And that's generally one of the hardest things that a lot of entrepreneurs deal with because we're so used to doing that we
Mhm.
don't track. And so I want to really focus you all on tracking and being certain that your time is actually being used wisely or better. So that when you get an AI tool in, you can say, this used to take me 6 hours to do. Now it takes me
That's
two
right.
hours to do. You know that
That's
the
right.
AI tool is better instead of just different.
Yep. And you just gotten back X amount of time, right? And then you can, again, that hits your bottom line, plain and
Mm-hmm.
simple. Or it relieves you of certain activities that
Right.
took up bandwidth, and that you
Right.
did it all day and you were tired at the end. Now you're less tired.
Yep.
That part, man. I
Mhm.
tell you, I'm
Yeah.
using so many different, and I at one point, just to share this with you before we go, is at one point I had to say, dude, you got way too many AI tools. There's no way you're going to go through them all. So I said, let me come up with something. I started talking with some of my virtual assistants, and I says, hey, listen, if I give you access to this tool, first of all, you give me a discount. And next, right? So now I'm thinking about creating a company that literally just allow them access to my tools.
Mhm.
That part. And then that goes
Yeah.
out and it does a thing. So it's that kind of
Yep.
strategic thinking, I think that will help you. Another thing that I wanted to end with is, all right, here it is. Think about those costs. We said they can't come to the party unless they're bringing their friends revenue and profit. Okay. We ask ourselves an even deeper question. How can I turn this cost into a profit center? How can I turn this cost into a profit center? Very similar to what Amazon did when it says, hey, we're already doing stuff for our business. We got all this pipe, we got all this data, we got to do it. Then they just says, what would happen if we
Web
open up the
services.
stuff we use? They started a whole
Hmm.
business, AWS, and now it is a multi-billion dollar. In fact,
Yep.
it's up there with how they make their money.
Money. Exactly. No, I agree with
They
you.
turn a
It's the
cost
whole it's the
into
whole
a profit
sawdust
center.
concept. And I'll leave you all with this story because we told the sawdust story, but I want to tell a different story to kind of bring it home. When I was learning about real estate investing, one of the things that they used to talk about, and everybody says, creative financing. You got to figure out how to finance stuff creatively. One of the stories that always stuck out to me that I thought was really interesting was this story about a guy. He went and bought some land, and the way that he financed it was with stuff that was already on the land. And the reason why it stuck out to me was because it it really illustrated how you have to see costs differently, like Randy's talking about. You have to look at costs not as costs, because if you just look at them as costs, then you are stuck in that frame. You're stuck in
Hmm.
that box.
Hmm.
But what the guy did is he was going to buy some land, and the land had a bunch of trees on it, but he needed to knock down the trees so that he could develop the land so that he could
Hmm.
put homes onto the land. So
Hmm.
knocking down the trees or cutting down the trees and getting the trees out of there was actually a cost that he was going to incur. And for the sake of this discussion, let's say it was a $300,000 cost on top of the development bill to do that. But what he realized was, for me, the trees suck. They are in the way. They are an eyesore.
Hmm.
They are a problem. They're an issue. But he went and said, who loves trees? Oh, paper companies love trees.
Love trees.
Lumber
They
companies
need them.
love trees. They need them. So let me go see how much they would pay me to come onto my land and come take these trees. And what he got to see was that that cost, where it was going to cost him to hire a lumber company to come and cut the trees down, right? Wood cutting and a demolition company to cut the trees down. He got somebody else to pay him to come onto the land and do it. And because they were willing to pay him to come onto the land and do it, he was able to use that money to buy the land as the down payment for the land.
Bro, it's so good. I could go back. We got to get out here, but I could go back and when I first bought my first piece of property, I looked at it and says, why would I buy one door? Right now, this is stuff long
Mm-hmm.
before Dude was talking about it, and I said, well, literally, this helped me at the bank. And they says, well, how much rent does it make? I said, well, I got a place upstairs, and it makes back in the day, it was making a couple hundred, or 300, 400, whatever a month. And they said,
Mm-hmm.
well, we can use that. Not all of it, but we can
Mm-hmm.
use this minus 25% vacancy rate, blah, blah, blah. And that
Mm-hmm.
helped me get the loan.
Yep.
That and, student loan that I didn't use for school, just saying. And
Right.
that helped me start my real estate.
And the whole idea is you have to look at things differently through a different prism. And some of that is being exposed to, or just simply asking the question, who is this not a problem for? Who is this a benefit for?
Mm, that part.
So
That is
that's
so
what I want to
good.
leave
That
everybody with.
we could go on and on and on. Take a look at what we've left for you, either in the comment section or the description field, depending on where you're seeing this. If you're seeing it on Facebook, I like not to use links or whatever it is, but find a way to contact us and we'll get to helping you. All right, that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.